Dear listeners, imagine your mind as a loop that never stops spinning. Not a creative loop, but not the kind that leads to the inspiration, but the kind that traps you in the same fear, the same thought, the same what if over and over. For some people, that loop is relentless. It doesn't care that you have checked the door, it doesn't care that the answer hasn't changed, and it just keeps going. Now imagine finding a way to redirect your that energy, not by fighting it, but by channeling it into something that gives back. That's what we are exploring today. So, dear listeners, I'm your host Avik, and you are listening to Mind Meets Machine, where we slow down to ask the questions that matter about how we think, how we create, and how we live alongside the tools and the stories we build. And today, dear listeners, I'm joined by a lovely guest. Please welcome Sean Robbins. So, welcome to the show.
Hi, happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sean, for being here. And dear listeners, like before we get into the discussion, I'd quickly love to introduce you to Sean. So he's a best-selling Canadian science fiction author with 49 novels to his name and nearly 200,000 books sold. Huge. And a lifetime of experience turning the chaos of purely obsessional OCD into creative that storytelling. So I do not want to take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again. So, Sean, like a lot of people, they think that OCD is all about being neat or organized, maybe washing your hands a lot of time. So you live with purely obsessional OCD. So which is different? Like, so what do you wish like more people understood about what that actually feels like day to day? What do you
Actually, you just described my life in the beginning of the show. You asked, what
say?
if your mind goes in a loop and it doesn't stop, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
basically pure O, purely obsessional OCD. It's just like the normal OCD, but instead of washing your hands, it's a thought. It appears out of nowhere. You think about it, you make a decision, you justify it, whatever, you put it aside. 30 seconds later, it comes back.
Okay.
And then same process. 30 seconds later, it comes back. Just like a person who cannot stop washing his hands,
Mm.
you can't stop thinking about it. And trust me when I tell you, it's torture. When it
Yeah.
starts, your life finishes for as long as this process continues, which could be a few days, could be a few weeks, could be a few months. And it always can start over the silliest things, like something that any logical, normal person would laugh at. You will sit down and think about it for 5 days. It's a really bad thing.
Okay. So, okay. And when those intrusive thoughts show up, so then what is the first thing that happens in your body or in your mind that signals this is not just a kind of passing worry? So, let's say,
As soon as, see, if it is a passing worry, if it is scientifically, and I'm not a doctor, but they say there is this chemical in your brain, in a normal brain, that takes a thought from your front lobe and takes it to be stored in back here, right? And apparently people who have this problem and all other kind of OCD miss that chemical, whatever its name is. So when a thought starts in my front lobe, it doesn't get back to get stored. It keeps being repeated and repeated and repeated. As soon as the same thought comes back 5 times in a minute, you know that, oh my God, here we go again.
yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, like it's a kind of, I would say, a reminder that mental health conditions don't always look the way we expect them. So the invisible struggles are often the, I'd say, hardest to name it. And naming them is where the work actually begins. So, like as you have said, that writing became therapeutic method for you. So what was it putting the words on a page and about building fictional worlds that helped you manage something as persistent as purely kind of obsessional OCD as well? So what is it?
Well, I struggled with what we just discussed for years, right? I tried so many things. I tried medication, I tried meditation, you all kind of therapies, nothing ever worked. Then once I read somewhere that people who have this problem is because they have an overly active imagination. And if they can channel that into something creative, that helps, right? So 9 years ago, I had a fight with my now ex-wife and my mind just started the loop and I was like, oh my God, here goes the next 6 months. And then I figured, you know what? Let's try. Let's try something creative, right? On that note, I've always wanted to be a writer. Like I'm a real bookworm, right? So, and it's one of those childhood dreams that, you grow up and you get a career and you go to work and you forget about it. But then, and I never thought I would have the discipline to sit at the laptop and write and write and write for hours and hours a day, right? But then this happened. So I sat down, I wrote my first book, and it turned out to be extremely helpful, a lot of fun, and then very, very successful. So 9 years later, here I am. OCD is mostly gone, but it's not gone. It's replaced by now stories, because really your mind cannot think about two things at the same time, right? And mine, when it starts thinking about the story, then there is no room left for something else. Now my mind thinks about the story nonstop. And that's how I ended up with 46. You said 49. That's because I have 46 published books. And then I started a new series, which I thought it's going to be 3 books, but at this point, it's going to be 4 books by the time it's finished, right? Let's say 46 published books. And yeah, 200,000 books sold. On that note, that's actually something like 120,000 books and audiobooks and 21 million pages read on KU. It's easier to put them together and say 200,000.
So, like, was there a specific moment or say a specific story where you felt that shift where the writing stopped being just an escape and became something that actually helped you
Yeah,
process what was happening inside? Yeah.
exactly the story that I told you. From the first day that I started writing, like for
Hmm.
real, you could feel the shift. You could see that. My mind started putting the same energy that it used to put into looping thoughts into coming up with the stories, right? So that's how I come up with so many ideas because now it's one idea after another. As soon as I finish a book, there is an idea for another book, and so on and so forth. My mind used to have like 50,000 looping thoughts a day, most of which would make me miserable. Now it has several hundred book ideas and then keeps chewing over them, which is
Yeah.
why I go for a walk and I come back and there is a book in my mind. So it has been very helpful, extremely rewarding, and also good for my bank account.
That's really interesting. And when we are talking about this, like something powerful about externalizing what loops inside us. And writing doesn't erase the thoughts, but it gives them somewhere to go. And sometimes that's enough to break the cycle as well. So, and if we talk about our daily life, right? So from there, I'll come like for someone who doesn't write 49 novels, who maybe doesn't write at all. So then how does this show up in their everyday life? Like, what does it look like when the OCD is active and you are trying to function, to work, to connect with people? So that time.
Say anything creative, doesn't need to be writing. Could be a sculptor, could be
Okay.
painting, right?
Hmm.
Anything that would channel this energy into something creative. My own personal experience is that it really works. And it's not like it's some new idea that I came up with. I
Mhm.
experienced it firsthand, but there is a ton of literature about this. That's something, in fact, it's believed that a lot of scientists, author, there are people who have slight or big mental issues. And that's how they ended up being inventors and authors and musicians. So I would say anything creative, but it has to be something that you enjoy, right? Like if you hate writing, you're not gonna write and deal with this problem. But there should be something that you like. It's creative. It would really help with this problem. And I haven't experienced this one myself personally, but I bet it helps with normal OCD also, because that also comes from an overactive imagination. So see, what happens is that you feel the urge to go and wash your hands, and you start thinking that if you don't wash your hands, something terrible is going to happen. But if your mind is busy producing, say, story, that second stage is not going to come. The part that if I don't wash my hands, something terrible is going to happen will not come because you're thinking about something completely different. So, my suggestion would be whoever is suffering from this, I'm not saying it's going to be a silver bullet and solves everything. I'm just saying, based on my own personal experience, pick something that you like, something creative, whatever that is, and apply yourself to that. That would take care of, or at least help with the OCD. And if you're lucky, a few years later, you would end up like me. That thing that you started as therapy becomes a second, or in fact, a main income in your life.
I agree. That is interesting. Yes. And like, how do you navigate the gap between what's happening internally and what you are able to show or explain to the people about you? So
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
I'm saying, like, how do you actually talk about the gap, which is between what's happening internally and what you are able to show or explain to the people around you?
Just the way that I just did it right now. I just explained everything that was going in my mind in, I would say, very simple English. So that's what I would do if I want to talk about this. Is the way that I just talked to you. I just explained my thought process, the science behind the whole thing, and a possible solution, which has worked great for me. I'm just hoping that maybe some people who watch this or listen to this would go ahead and try something similar and have the same success. It helps them in their lives. Then I think our job here is done.
Like, so you mentioned about writing as a therapeutic method, not about just a kind of distraction. So what do you think? I mean, what does that process actually look like for you? Like, is it structured or is it spontaneous or is it something that you return to when things get hard?
No, it's something completely spontaneous
Okay.
and ongoing. So it is not a structured at all. I know a lot of authors, they have like a strategy. They say, okay, I must write to the market. So it's going to be like they do research and the hero has to be like this. And then the story has to have these beats. For me, it's none of that. For me, it comes spontaneously and continuously, as in it never stops, which 46 books is proof of that, right? And as soon as like just recently, I wrote this 4 book series, which did very well. Because it did very well, I really pushed myself to finish it. Because, you publish a book, it explodes. You wait 6 months to publish a second book. By that time, everybody has forgotten about it, right? So I published books 2, 3, and 4 really quickly. I worked hard, hours a day. I finished. The next day, I sit here when I'm talking to you, and I'm like, I heaved a sigh of relief, and I was like, oh, good, I can take a rest now. And a thought came to my mind that asked, what will happen if a combat android has free will? That was it. By the end of the breakfast, I had the new series in my mind. So, answering to your question, completely spontaneous and ongoing. Once you start, and I'm assuming it's for anything creative that you do, it's not something that you do when you have a problem or you want to distract yourself. It's continuous.
So in that process, do you find any certain kind of words or stories or the characters help more than the others, or is it like more about the act of certain, I mean, creation itself?
No, it's creation. I jokingly say it's like godhood. I create a new
Okay,
universe, right? I often say it's like these things are really happening in an alternate universe. And I just watch and report. I do not sit down and say, okay, my character should be like this. And then the story, this should happen so that people would like it. It's like things really actually happen. And sometimes the things that happen are very controversial and people might hate them. But this is how it is.
exactly. And wow, I mean, it sounds like the stories become a language for things that didn't have words otherwise, and that's not just a therapy; that's a survival through meaning making, I'd say. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah,
and
that's another thing. Not that you just mentioned meaning.
mm, mm,
This everything that I told you about, the
yeah.
therapy, the financial aspects, just the fact that people read my books makes me happy,
Mm.
right? But the meaning that it gives to your life, that's really awesome. Before this all started, I'm an English teacher. I work in a college here in Abu Dhabi. People ask me, what's your job? And I'm like, I'm a teacher. Now it's like I'm an author, and then it becomes a legacy. Like you want to have as many books as written. And I honestly say this, whenever I'm gone, people will still read my books for years to come. You know, the whole thing gives your life meaning.
That is true. That is very, very true. And like, I mean, how do you sustain this practice over time? Like, I mean, after 49 novels, after years of using writing this way, what do you do when writing itself feels very hard, or when kind of OCD pushes back and makes it harder to create things? So, what?
Neither of those has happened. People
Okay.
ask me, no, honestly, people ask me because there is something called the writer's block,
uh,
apparently. People ask me what will happen if you face that. And I'm like, it
mm,
has never happened. My problem is the exact opposite. My problem is that my brain works so hard that I cannot catch up with it. There is not enough time for me. I just told you this last year, I finished a 4 book series. As soon as that finished, I did a 6 book series. As soon as that finished, I started the new series, which as
yeah,
of now is going to be 4 books. My problem is there is not enough time to catch up with this, you know?
yeah,
So, no,
yeah.
that wouldn't happen. And like I said, since I'm told, yes, sometimes OCD pushes back so hard that even this cannot deal with that.
Yeah.
Those are really big events.
Mm.
When the war in Ukraine started, my ex-wife is Ukrainian. She was in Ukraine. She was in Kiev. I totally lost my mind for like 3 or 4 months. When COVID started, and here in Abu Dhabi, we were under the most serious lockdown you can imagine, I had a really hard time coping. But those are once in a generation events, which I know happened to me twice in a few years. But those are not everyday events that we are trying to deal with, right? In those two particular occasions, I honestly confess that writing didn't help and neither did anything else. But for your everyday normal life, super helpful. And I want to emphasize again, I'm not saying even necessarily writing. I'm saying anything creative, anything that channels this loop into something creative would help.
Uh, that is amazing. And if you have to give one advice to the listeners today who are listening right now, or maybe they'll be listening later, what that will be?
Same thing that I said 2 or 3 times already. Choose something creative that you like and start doing it. Just start, right? As soon as you start and you keep at it, give it a few days. Then you will see what I hope. I hope you will see what I experienced. Again, this is not like something that I say. I'm not a doctor, but there is a ton of literature about this, which is how I found this to begin with, right? Give it a few days, keep at it, and hopefully you will see the difference between when your mind just wanders around non-stop, whichever way it likes, or when it is channeled into something creative.
And if listeners wants to connect with you, how they can connect?
Just Google my name, Sean Robbins, with 60 book, 60, sorry, 46 published books. I'm all over, right? But the easiest way would be to find me on Amazon because I have my own Amazon page. Again, look for Sean Robbins. Sean is like Sean Connery, SAN, and Robbins is like the ice cream with 1B. And you will definitely will see pages after pages after pages of my books and myself. I'm all over.
Nice. Dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links, details, everything into the show notes for your easy reference. And
Yeah.
I'll just say, like, sometimes the tools that save us are not the ones that we went looking for. They are the ones we stumbled into and the ones that are built without permission. The ones that give us a way to keep going when nothing else would. Right. So I definitely thank Sean for sharing your perspectives and be here. And it is really helpful to clarify about the misconceptions and what people think about OCD. So thank you so much for that. And also thank you everyone for being here to whoever is listening right now, or maybe will be listening later.
Yeah, you know what would make me very happy? If
Yeah,
somebody writes to you in a few days or a few weeks and says, I tried this and it works. Thank you guys. If it happened, please let me know.
exactly. Exactly. And like everyone who's listening, maybe the question is not whether you have the right tools to manage what you are carrying right now, or maybe it's whether you are willing to try. Like Sean said, just try it and share your, I mean, what you think, what you felt. It will be really helpful, right? So do let us know over the social media and on the podcast channels as well. And that's the beginning. So with this hope, this is your host Avik, and this is Mind Meets Machine. Take care of your mind, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you so much.